Welcome everyone to another session of the Advanced Work Packaging Community of Practice webinar series. As we announced, we're now doing the series every second week for the remainder of 2020, with the exception of the week of October 27th, when we will be running the Advanced Work Packaging Conference, which is a 3-day event and many hours of content available there. So to introduce today's session and talk briefly about that conference is Lloyd Rankin, President of Group ASI. He'll be introducing our presenter today, Robin Mikaelsson, President of the AWP University. So again, thanks for joining us today, and I'm going to hand it over to Lloyd to introduce this webinar.
Okay, thanks very much, Steve, and welcome everybody in the audience. We've had a lot of AWP related things happening. There was a virtual summit a couple of weeks ago that CII put on. It was a research summit, and lots of great information has come out from there. I strongly recommend, if you haven't, that you go to the CII website, and there is a document there on AWP data requirements. It's actually a free document that you can download, and it provides some great information. So if you haven't done it already, I would strongly recommend you go to the CII website and download that document. Steve, next slide, please. So if you haven't done so already, we strongly recommend that you join the AWP community of practice, but also that you get your peers to join. We've had some big developments with the South American chapter has now officially started up, and it's grown to over 1,000 members. The Russian chapter is going to be operational before the end of this year, and we have representation from universities, from local construction firms, owner companies, technology companies, and the European Construction Institute is looking at establishing a European chapter of the community of practice. And we actually have a meeting next week to talk about how we can connect those chapters together and start leveraging what everybody's doing globally. So you're going to notice some changes in how we operate. We're going to actually slow down the webinars a little bit so we can focus more on what activities are going to really help promote advanced work packaging and have the biggest impact on advanced work packaging in North America. And as we've said before, we're in the process of putting together the advisory board, and if you're an owner or a contractor or a technology company or a subject matter expert company, we'd love you to reach out to us if you'd be interested in helping us on the advisory board. We anticipate it will be about a 4-time-a-year activity, but getting the right people on there is going to be critical. So we'd love your help if you're interested. Next slide, Robin. And of course, we've got the conference coming up on the 27th through the 29th, and we're going to have 7 different presentations that'll be available to everybody. We're going to have 25 breakout level sessions. We're going to have kickoffs and closes every day. The conference will give you 15 PDUs, and for people like myself that are PMPs, or for those of you who are professional engineers, it's really important that we keep up our credentials, and one of the best ways of doing that is relevant educational activities, and this definitely will qualify. We've got Exxon, Shell, Dow, Cajun, it's hard for me to think of a major owner, construction company, or technology company that won't be speaking at the conference. So I strongly recommend that if you haven't done so already, that you sign up for the conference, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. Robin, as the president of AWP University, is going to be speaking there in the breakout sessions, and he's also going to be speaking on one of the general sessions. So I think you'll get some great info. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Robin. I'll let him introduce himself, and he'll be filling in on some of the broad educational issues and then talking to you a bit about the AWP University. So Robin, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Lloyd, and thank you for having me here for this webinar. It's a pleasure to come and speak to you all here today. So let's look at a few things that we're going to cover here today. I'm going to give kind of a current state of a few items from CII, speaking as a member of several of these groups, and some of the statuses of things that we've been developing, and some of the stuff that I'm pretty excited about that CII is releasing, and happy to be a part and a contributor within those things. Then I'm going to go into a bit about the AWP University. We like to call it a newly formed company on a lot of very long, older IP, if you will, meaning that we're building on the knowledge of SMEs that have been doing this for 20 some years each, and have been training for a long, long time in the industry. And I want to talk to you about this new exciting company that's been formed for that, and talk to you about the training and the types of training that are offered through there, and how in this world, this post-COVID, during COVID, however you want to refer to it, how things have changed and how the requirements for training have vastly changed, and some of the things that we're doing to try and bridge some of those gaps to get used to this new way of doing things, if you will. So, and then we're going to open it up for some questions at the end. So I assume, Stephen, the normal webinar thing applies. Type in your questions, and at the end, we'll review the questions and do a bit of a Q&A that way. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yes, please. You should see a questions tool in your attendee panel that you can use to submit questions to Robin throughout the session, and we will take them all up toward the end.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Stephen. So let's jump into it. So one thing that we're pretty excited about is, and a lot of you have been asking for it for a long time, is CII is in the process right now of creating what's called the AWP Body of Knowledge. And what is the AWP Body of Knowledge? It's a document, if you will. This is the working document that's pictured on the screen, but it's really a pre-release document right now, where what it is really a culmination of years and years of research around AWP. People have repeatedly asked us at CII to reopen the 272 materials, because we all know that there's certain sections that we've kind of grown beyond, and we've made some upgrades to, and lots of real practitioners want to be able to change that up to some of the methodologies that we use today in AWP. Well, this is your chance. The AWP Body of Knowledge that's being developed, version 1 is going to be basically as the documentation reads today. And that's not just 272, that's all of the materials, including the 319 was the proving this stuff works, into the 3 series that's speaking at the past conference and this next conference, the 3 series, 363, 364, and 365, which are materials and furthering the removing barriers for AWP, and several others that have been developed recently that are very, very key within CII that are reporting out now, are also going to be included in the AWP Body of Knowledge. So what does that mean, and where is that useful? This document is actually going to live in, of course, the body of knowledge within CII, but it will more importantly be with Jamie and Eric as the chairs of the CBA, for it to be, and the knowledge management group within the CBA, to continue to evolve it. Meaning that when we have big discussions and we have these revelations that maybe things should change a little bit, such as one of the big ones people keep going to is the CWP-EWP relationship. Those types of things, we're going to get a chance now to have a place where we can talk and discuss and move forward with some of these updates to the model. It's a pretty exciting step change, I think. The first version is slated to be released sometime before Christmas. And then subsequent versions are going to be by community, where we move forward with it. So I wanted to bring that forward because I'm pretty stoked about helping out with it and helping to drive it forward. It's going to be pretty cool. And please, feel free to type questions and ask questions about that also. I really wanted to give an update on this stuff, not just the AWP University that we're going to be talking about soon here. All right, another thing that's coming from CII in the very near future, and it's in review right now, is the AWP Educational Primer. And I think that the Educational Primer fits this presentation, and I wanted to bring it forward because that education and outreach group did some great work, and they've done a lot to move forward with a document such as this in the industry. And really what this document is all about, it's about creating this resource as a primer for those that are just setting out in the AWP journey. Those of you out there that have been practitioners for many, many years might find it somewhat remedial, but that's the intent. The idea is to put everything together into one place to give people a jump off point so that when they look at some of the basics, like what is AWP, what are the benefits of it, those types of things, scalability, Lloyd's Pet, those types of things, what are we and how do we attack some of those? The primer's not the place to find out every detail about them, but to get the overviews so that you know where you should start to embark on that journey and then jump into some of the other AWP materials within CII itself. It's pretty cool. It's going to be a great resource to help you get started in lots of those areas. It's going to be able to be used in conjunction with the concierge, which I think several of you have heard me speak of before. It's a great tool that was created by RT365. The Educational Primer will be a great introduction to the use of that tool as well. So give it a look when it comes out. Keep your eyes open. When it releases, it's going to be very cool. All right, last update for CII that I think is really, really key and ties to the whole educational basis. CII right now is in the process of moving forward with trying to develop a certification program for AWP, with ideas to go beyond that, possibly into other areas and best practices. But AWP is the first one that they're planning to start with. So what does that mean? So certification for the industry, there's many places like the AWP University or other providers in the industry that could give you certification in certain areas. And we offer it through the AWP University, but they don't hold weight much beyond that organization itself. This is going to be a true globally based CII certification for AWP in a couple of different levels for a couple of different roles. Don't know exactly how it's going to shake out, but it's something to keep an eye out for because it's going to be very nice to have an accredited board like CII furthering certification. So now we can have our practitioners, our people that are in the field certified all with the same type of basis and criteria through CII, which I'm totally excited about and why I'm driving this forward. And the new chair of this committee and others is going to be very much involved in driving it forward, and I'm pretty excited about it. Okay, so moving forward from that, today's world is a lot different. I hate the term new norm. I try not to use it. The truth is we've got a lot of new hurdles. There's a lot of things that have changed. COVID has very much changed the way we all do business. I've worked from home for close to 15 years, and it's still changed extensively how I interact with the world. And in every instance, things are different. So what does that mean for education? Well, what I truly think it does is it puts a microscope on education and how exactly we perform education with our practitioners within our organizations. And of course, the obvious with that is moving to online and availability of courses online. So when we start talking about that, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is a very robust LMS system. So there's a couple things that are required in this changing world. Online driven remote learning is obviously one of the most important things that we need to look at, and we need to look at what our future plans are for these types of systems. LMS systems, being learning management systems, have been around for a long time. We've been for a long time really kind of up against using a lot of these types of systems because we tend to prefer instructor in-person led type materials. In this world, that's not necessarily a thing that can happen, both for the instructors and the students. Those of you that have kids in school right now or are teaching kids that's at home because you can't send them to school can recognize that same fact. It's the same in the corporate world, of course. So you've got a lot of emerging technologies around teaching online, and you've got companies like AWP University and others that are moving forward to help organizations with this new world of change and how exactly we're approaching the training organizations today. So as the world changes, as things move forward within the training basis and the methodologies we use for training, we need to look at several key factors. One is how is the LMS? Is there an available LMS for that learning system? The second key is there a hybrid system available? Does the organization allow for online instructor-led type basis? This third thing that's extremely important when looking at the learnings of today is, do those organizations offer a continuing educational basis? Too often we get into a training program where it ends up being a week-long awareness training that goes nowhere. We have no ability beyond that to help move the career forward of personnel, and the programs have no growth potential within them. So we need to analyze certain organizations, and we've done that within the AWP University to make sure that your personnel have a strict and a controlled learning path environment where when you move forward with it, there's career planning as well as right down to the basics of awareness planning. You need to have a lot of that type of basis moving forward so that you can grow within it. The one-offs that we used to do are not really the way things work in this world anymore. We need to live now within this online world of training, if you will. Therefore, you need to have methods for growth. So with that basis, let's jump into what we've developed in the university and leave some of the CII updates that I felt I had to do because they were very exciting things moving forward within CII to promote education and promote the educational systems and what's happening in the industry. So I felt I really had to give those updates. But now let's talk about the university. So now I'm here to plug the university and talk about the specifics of the systems. So the first thing I would tell you about the university is it's a newly formed independent company that its program moving forward is to obviously train everyone they can in AWP methodologies. And furthermore, as a completely agnostic company, the ideas is that we want to partner with all the organizations out there. Those consultants out there that you've used, you know and love, the Jeff Ryans of the world you've worked with forever. We want to partner with those people moving forward and that type of thing so that we start to standardize training, and we want to be that within the AWP University as a central hub for delivery of that type of thing. So that's the kind of goal within the university, is to promote learning. Our coat of arms that you're seeing here, the basis of it is people, process, technology, and culture. That's the 4 pillars of the university. That's 4 things that we drive forward very hard within our curriculum and how we set up our curriculum. So let's look at a few things that are very key to the university. First off, we are the first fully modular role-based training program in the industry. What the heck does that mean? What that means is that we have over 70 different modules that all pertain to very specific aspects of the AWP processes. They're customized into role-based learning paths that mean something to an individual. Remember I was talking about awareness training? I've taught a lot of awareness training courses. They're great. They teach you how to spell AWP. But in the end, can you build a work package? Do you know how to run a department? Not really. So you need to go to a program that will guide you through all of those steps as what is AWP to me. The university is structured in that manner, so we give you that awareness training. But if you want to continue with your learnings, you can continue with your learnings in the university direct into a basis that drives home what AWP is to you in your present role, as well as what do you want AWP to mean to you. And what I mean by that is, how do I grow in this environment of advanced work packaging that we know and love? Say I'm a workplace planner today. I want to be the AWP coordinator tomorrow. What is my learning program? What is my career advancement? AWP University is very big on making sure that our practitioners, when they leave, are very functional practitioners. They're not just people who know how to spell AWP. They're people that have career path striving and plans, and we've laid it out within the university as learnings to bring them forward with that. All of our instructors within the university, long time SMEs, most of them out there, most of you out there and listening today, I'm sure know most of our instructors. I'm the head instructor as well as the president, so most of you have probably sat in on one of my courses or presentations or speeches before. I've been involved with CII and forwarding the basis of AWP for 20 years now. So you know that there's a lot of experience within our AWP SMEs and the trainers within the organization. All right, learning management system hybrid. What does that really mean? That's extremely important. You can sign on to an LMS. There's many LMS systems out there. I'm sure many of you have used LMS systems within your corporate life. How enjoyable were they? Probably not very. LMS systems are a necessary evil, but how you utilize that LMS is extremely important. A learning management system hybrid, I believe, is extremely important. Within the university, we do weekly meetings, a couple meetings a week where you can speak with the SMEs and the instructors on any topics. They will have presentation topics to cover during those sessions, where half the session will be presentation, the other half is all Q&A about whatever the students are looking at, so that they're structured an environment for interaction with the instructors that have created the materials. So the LMS exists, you can self-direct learn, but you also get to interact with instructors on set basis. The other thing is that the university offers a corporate engagement policy where we do custom materials, where we'll do the 80-20 content rule is what we like to move forward on, which what that means is we use 80% of our existing materials. So we've got existing materials that are standardized as best we could in the industry to kind of make everybody happy. Now, we all know that's not possible to make everybody 100% happy. So there's a customization that's required. We go through a lengthy, all of a day and a half, so I'm joking when I say lengthy, workshop program where we'll sit down and we've got a very established questionnaire that we sit down with the organization and find out what is specific and unique to that organization. Whether do you follow the stage gate process that's standard in CII, or do you have an FEL type basis? Are you using an A to G type phasing approach? There's multiple different bases of how you organize and run your projects. A lot of that really doesn't matter to the AWP methodologies, but referring to those technology or referring to those methods during training is extremely important because you don't want to confuse your employees. So when we do a corporate engagement and we set up a corporate LMS, when we go through that 80-20, it's branded as your organization. The other thing is, it's not just branded as your organization, it actually refers to your projects. It refers to what you call your organizations, whether you've got sector leads or managers or whatever you call them, they're rightfully referred to. Maybe you go to the extreme where you call an IWP a job card versus an installation work package. Doesn't matter, we capture that to create that custom 80-20. It's extremely important because you don't want to confuse those students. You want them to learn specifically as to how your organization wants them to learn. So in the corporate engagement, that 80-20 content customization is a real key aspect to driving forward with a functional plan. Okay, one size does not fit all. That's a really big deal. I've mentioned it several times, and I'm probably as much or more guilty than most in the industry of teaching 3-4 day awareness trainings that are great for the purpose of getting awareness, but they don't make you practitioners. So one size does not fit all. Maybe all your executives need is awareness, but if you're trying to train workface planners, are you going to send them just to an awareness training for a week? That's a little redundant. So you need to be able to customize with a fully modularized curriculum to do role-based training. So that's a very specific aspect and unique to the university for fully modularized, specific role-based learning so that you can drive it forward. The other thing we do, I talked about corporate engagement before. We do corporate LMS integration, whether that means that you leverage a skinned university that looks like your corporate environment, or we just supply the materials and license you the materials to engage your own internal university. And many of you have them, LMS systems that are internal. We can help populate those through licensed materials as well. So it's fully functional, it's fully flexible. One size does not fit all. You can't just hit the market with 300 slides of awareness and get the basis of engagement that you really want to see. So that's what we've built our basis all around with the university, and we think that it's a true winner in that way, and the feedback's been phenomenal. All right, so a couple key features of the LMS moving forward. Corporate skinning. When you log into the system from an organization, now granted, we do retail too. So if you want to come to our website and buy a couple courses, you can throw down your credit card and independently buy a course. I talk a lot about corporate enablement because that's where a lot of the majority of the students are. But remember, we do full retail to customer also. Corporate skins, what that means is when your students from your organization log in and you've already gone through that 80-20 type engagement and those types of things, the site actually switches over based on your login to skin based on your corporate organization. This beautiful coat of arms we've got on the right here goes away and your company logo replaces it, as well as the content from the 80-20. So very specific to your login that way. You get full student dashboards and corporate dashboards, extremely important. Students can track exactly what their progress is, plan for their career advancement, track it against a dashboard. Corporately, as an organization, you can track all your students. Are they doing what they need to do? How long is it taking them to do what they're doing? Have they passed the exams? What's their scores? What's their tracking? How are they matching up to the industry in what the scores are and what the tracking is? Where do they rate in that basis so that you can start to get a corporate baseline as to the educational base of your practitioners, which is extremely important. Embedded video, downloadable materials, interactive exercises. Our LMS is not just a simple dead watch a video. You may watch a video for not much more than 10 minutes at a time. Then there's exercises and quizzes and games and several things that you have to do to stay interactive with it. I apologize, it's not just a corporate system that you can press play and get credit for it, get credit for taking the course. You need to interact with it. It's a simulation-based training. If it's not a corporate enablement, we actually have a fully fictitious, complete data set from a project that we utilize to take you from tip to tail of path of construction development through to IWP creation, management, and closeout, as well as turnover packages and such that we've recently added to move forward through the entire life cycle based on one project data set. You continue to build exercise to exercise through those materials. Quiz and examination advancement, meaning that you've got to write quizzes. You got to answer a couple of questions as you go forward to make sure that you're getting it to move forward. Full progress tracking, learning path and career management control. Live streaming. We live stream directly through it for those productivity sessions where Zoom is integrated directly with it. We've got Facebook page groups and stuff that are closed right now, but are going to be opening fairly quickly. They're just closed individual practitioners right now that are presently clients of the AWP University. Pretty soon they're going to be open to the public, so watch for those. And then of course we've got certificate management. When you pass the courses and based on an 80% percentile as the passing grade within the university, certificates are awarded based on the completion of those examinations. We will also be integrating directly with the certification program from CII. We've been talking with them the whole time and their organization to ensure that the materials are highly specific to certification. So when you take an AWP University course, you are ready to write those certification exams, which is very key because that's the whole purpose, right? All right, couple of key things on the LMS. This comes directly from the website. The LMS is a extremely robust development tool that we have created over the last little while that's driving forward a lot of the basis of the university and how we do things. We've been training for many years and providing a lot of classroom-based materials. I've lost track of how many different corporations and stuff that I've trained within. Moving to an LMS and an online system is obviously the natural evolution in this world today, and bringing forward that plethora of information. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a massive amount from 20 years of training. I started training in the Canadian oil sands 20 years ago, where back then I was training thousands of foremen on how to plan your work. 20 years later, bringing it forward to the masses through the LMS, I'm totally excited about it. All right, so I won't harp on these too long, but we'll talk about it. We talked about the modularization of the university and how in this world you need to get past that one size does not fit all type basis, right? So how in a COVID world do you actually train beyond awareness? Well, the modules all live within 6 series, 100 through 600 series. The 100 series is made up of 4 modules for 4 different purposes. And then those modules, depending on which learning path, and we'll talk about the learning paths here soon, so you can see kind of a breakdown on what those learning paths are for. They're dispersed based on whichever the purpose of the training is. 200 series, role-based training. This is very specific. This is not just, okay, so I need to know what project controls in AWP is. This is very specific to a person. If I'm a P6 scheduler, what do I need to know in the AWP world? Who do I interact with? What are my deliverables? We don't teach process and practice within the 200 series. We teach basically a responsibility matrix. The 200 series, for lack of a better way to describe it, is a giant RASI chart. We teach you in the role-based movement as to what you need to do, who you need to talk to, who you owe what to, what developments do you have to do, and deliverables do you have to supply for the program to be successful. It's very specific to a role and who needs to do what. 300 series, best practice training. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is where the detail comes out for the best practices. There's nearly 20 modules in the 300 series alone, where when we go through that, it's everything from how do you set up a project to digital twin turnover. We teach on digital twin. We've got within our organization some of the leading practitioners on digital twin advancement. I'm sure you've all heard of Ted Weitzman before. He's a contributor to the university. He's one of the outstanding personnel right now around digital twin turnover. We teach right to that level in the 300 series of best practices. Then there's the 400 series, which is specialty training. Remember I talked about training a P6 technician? Well, in the 400 series, there's also a highly detailed course on how to create a schedule for AWP. And what that means is we don't teach you on how to build a piece, how to work in P6 or how to utilize Primavera. What we teach you is what are the requirements for setting up a WBS structure? What are the hierarchies for the work packages? How do you bring them into the schedule? What that AWP friendly schedule structure looks like. That's an example of one. There's about 20 different modules within there. Also the specialty in-depth training that makes sense on certain areas that we need to bring forward. Then we get to the 500. This is advanced process techniques. A couple of things that live in here, such as building work packages or breaking up IWPs, how you build them, control them, and manage them. Management and closeout of IWPs. In the basic work processes, we teach you about it. We teach you those bases, but the 500 series is where we get really deep on how it is that a workface planner needs to manage packages in the field. Way too often, this is often an area that's forgotten about. People think once the packages are built, if they're in a schedule or something, we're fine, right? Well, the truth is we got to be able to follow them through fruition, making sure they're being worked, making sure they're being closed out appropriately, making sure any problems or constraints that were in there from the field are logged, tracked, and brought forward for future advancement. 500 series, we teach that kind of very in-depth methodology. 600 series, that is a custom software training environment. Our practitioners within the AWP University are all very well known in the industry and have implemented many different systems. I used to work for Bentley years ago. I've done hundreds of implementations of ConstructSim. I had worked with Synchro before I left Bentley, those types of things. I helped develop and scope some of the SPC data very early on for Hexagon. So we've worked or implemented all of the softwares. I construct regularly. So we've got knowledge in all of those areas for the training, and we have training curriculum for all of the major software utilization within the AWP world. Truth be known, if all you're doing is teaching process, you're definitely leaving your students hanging, because you need to bring technology into it along with it. Because if you're an AWP practitioner and you don't know that you need software, then you're obviously not very deep into your implementation. You can do it manually, but God love you, you're going to need an army, right? So you need software to help you with your AWP implementations. I don't care what it is, you need something. We help teach you in those because we've implemented most of them. All right, so I talked about the learning paths earlier. Those are the modules that we offer, but those modules all need to get put into some kind of context. There's 70 some modules that we talked about in those 1 through 600 series basis that were there earlier. How do they get to the student? Because no one student is going to take 70 some modules. That's 1,000 hours worth of training. It's not going to happen, right? So we need to break it down into hours that make sense to an individual. So we've got several pre-made learning paths, and that's what you're seeing on your screen now. First off, and most important to start with, is of course the general AWP awareness training. I may have beaten up on it, but it's a very big stepping stone. You need to get that awareness training done and out of the way so that we can move on to the more detailed trainings of the role-based individual. So project executives, for instance, 2 hours basic training, required courses. Every learning path has 2 levels of training, a required and an advanced. So if all you want to do is get the basics that you need to know to be proficient, then the required courses are for you. They're all you're going to need for CII certification. However, we offer advanced courses for every single learning path, which is other courses and modules that make sense to take along with the required courses. So if you look at it, if we look at the project executives here, there's 2 hours required, which basically teaches you how to spell AWP. You can be a champion and say, this sounds like good methodology, let's go forward with it. You want to know what's actually happening behind the scenes as an executive, there's 20 hours that's scoped out as additional self-learning courses that you could take, as well as 4 hours of technical courses. Now, what does an executive need to know for 4 hours in technical courses? They're going to need to know how to run reports. They're going to need to know how to do reviews, use dashboards. We teach in that project executives learning path, we've got a half an hour on just how to use the learning management system databases and dashboards, so that project executives can track how their employees are doing in their learning management. That's as an example. We teach tech courses along with every track as you move forward. Some of the more extreme, you look at the real big practitioners, look at a workplace planner or look at a workplace planning coordinator. 47 hours in required courses. So it's basically a week's worth of training specific to that individual. Advanced courses, 27 hours in addition to it. And then there's technical courses of about 17 hours. And that's not just one tool. We teach in a bunch of different tools so that they understand what Primavera is doing. They understand what the project controls environment is doing. They understand what that work package management system is doing. They understand what the work package production system is doing. There's a lot more than just one system. So it's not 17 hours of training on one system. That's 17 hours worth of training in about 8 different ones. And I won't go through each of them, but you kind of get the gist now of how we've brought through all of those modules that I talked about earlier and broke up into what makes each of these specific roles. So when you can say an engineering lead, what do I need to know? Bam, here's your course layout, here's your learning path. We'll follow it with, bombard you with a whole whack of general knowledge. You're going to get right down deep and dirty into the engineering leads for AWP. so that that person understands what they need to do and what to expect from procurement, what to expect from work-phase planners, what to expect from everybody else. So everybody gets together on the same page and works together. All right, very important. We structured the university around these learning paths so that we can offer anything from the real basic general awareness track, which is great for organizations that are just getting into it. You want a week's worth of training to bring people from all over the country together to understand the basics of it and where you want to go with it. That's the course for you. Then, of course, as you're going to be practitioners and you're going to drive forward, all the other ones are very specific to the individuals. All right. So as we start to get towards wrapping it up and moving towards Q&A, just to wrap it up here in a couple minutes so that we can get to it, get to the questions. There's lots of changes out there. We need to grow. We need to have career advancement still. There's a lot of people that are out of work. There's a lot of good people from construction that are sitting on the sidelines right now. It's one of the big reasons why we've created the university and pushed it forward in a very formal basis. There's a big restart that's happening. Projects are starting to come back online. Things are starting to move forward. Change has happened and continues to happen. Where do we bring ourselves into the future? We have a unique ability now to learn from LMS type systems and remote learning systems. People have got past that basic hurdle of, I'm not going to learn from a computer or sit in front of something online and do the exercises that way. I need to sit with an instructor and understand that. We do online instructor-based training that helps to guide some of that, but we also have the LMS that you don't need to go with that full instructor-led training. In the future, I have no dates for it, as you can imagine, but we will be back to offering classroom work as we have in the past. But right now it's instructor-led online and everything is remote learning, and the university has stepped up and tried to help and tackle that basis. So with that, I thank you, Lloyd, for having me. The AWP University is all about people, process, technology, and culture. We believe that's truly the 4 pillars to being successful within your projects. And please feel free to reach out to myself or others. My email is robin@awp-u.com. Very easy to remember, awp-u.com. We'll open it up for some questions now. Steve, I'll turn it back to you and we can see where we can take it. I thank you for your time, everybody.
Well, thanks very much for that, Robin. Steve, do you want to take over the Q&A portion?
Yeah, sounds great. No problem. We've got a good number of questions coming in here. I'll just start at the top. Rupesh asked, will the body of knowledge supersede all other IR and RS? For example, IR 272 or IR 319?
That's an excellent question. Will it supersede it? Depends. Like, supersede it means, will it be the new gold standard, if you will, for that particular methodology? I shudder to say yes, but I believe that it really will be. The body of knowledge, to start with, version 1 is going to be the basis of everything that you've seen and that's published out there. The idea of our version 1 in the body of knowledge is that we capture where the research is and has been. So it will be 272 moved forward and 319 moved forward and that type of thing. As the CBA and we move forward as a group and evolving it, then that body of knowledge will contain an evolution of that AWP knowledge. So whether you consider it superseded or not, that's up to you. 272 is great, stands alone unto itself. But if you want to learn a little bit more than what we've learned since 272, that's where the body of knowledge is going to come in.
Okay. Jeff Ryan, how do you measure the success of AWP?
Jeff, throwing me a big question like that. How do you measure the success of AWP? Well, there's multiple different ways you can measure the success of AWP. First and foremost, one of the ways that I like to measure success to start with is with the morale of the personnel in the field. If a project is happy with the way things are going, if the project personnel know what they're supposed to be doing, and they're going in those directions and things seem to be working well from a systematic point of view, and that morale is high, a project is going to be a lot more likely to be successful. And I consider that a big success factor. When you start getting into hard numbers of the success of AWP on a project, there's all kinds of different metrics that you can get into, and I could speak for another 5 hours on that. But the truth is there's a couple key things that I look at. Are things getting to the field in time? Is it because we planned them properly? If they're not, or because we missed? Who's launching RFIs? Are the planners launching RFIs, or if RFI is coming from the field like crazy? If a bunch of RFIs are coming from the field, that means your AWP program is not successful because your planners have not answered the questions or looked for the answers to the questions before it got to the field. If we are not having crews standing waiting, and they are always getting their materials, and they're always getting an open work front, and they're always knowing what they need to be doing today, tomorrow, and the next day, then your AWP program is successful on the highest level, right? There's all kinds of metrics we could talk about, and I'd love to go for a beer with you, Jeff, and talk about those. There's lots to go over, but that's the basics that I work on. You know, are the people on it happy, and do they know what they're supposed to be doing, and are they doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Thanks very much. There's a couple of AWP general questions. Maybe we'll save those for toward the end if we have time to get back into that. But getting back to the topic at hand here about certification and training, Sean Pellegrino asks, what is the bigger picture for this certification? Individual AWP certification is important. From an owner's perspective, they would like to know what the contractors that are executing their projects are qualified AWP practitioner contractors, or I guess maybe he wants to know which ones are qualified. Therefore, what is the bigger picture of tying this training into a recognized industry AWP practitioner contractor certification? Another big question there.
So that's a very good question, and I don't have direct answers for you on a lot of that certification basis. What I can say to it though, and looking at it from some of the models that we've looked at, like PMI and others, is that the first thing you got to do is put certification in place, and people got to start coming and getting certified. Then as owners, we make it a requirement that you have a certain amount of certified content in your contracts. How do you check that? To start with, it's going to be your BD department's going to have to know what your numbers of certified planning content is, what your number of certified AWP practitioners is. Now, in the future, depending on where the industry wants to go, we may look at databases that you can search, like PMI. You go on the PMI site now, you can see who's a PMP and who isn't by searching their name. Maybe we look at that kind of a basis. I would like to see, when I start talking about this personally, that we kind of use certification to kind of do for construction what we've done for construction with safety, where we've now got indexes for how safe an organization is. Well, when I go through contracting, I want to know what an index is for the amount of knowledge that an organization has around AWP. I would like to see our certification move towards that, so we can say, well, we're looking at company XYZ, Mr. Owner, and that particular company has a 1.9 usage of AWP certification over this other one that has 1.2, and we use it as a basis. I'd like to see it go that way. Initially, that's kind of big picture. Initially, the truth is it's about getting people in, getting them certified, getting them writing the exams, and creating a database of those that are and aren't. That's the basis, but there's a lot of speculation as to where we can really go with the certification, and that's up to CII. I'm not running that. I'm just a very willing participant in assisting. So
there are a couple questions here asking for clarification as to when the certification and or training may be available and or how much that might cost. I don't know if you have some insight into either of those.
Okay, excellent question. So when it comes to, we're doing a phased release. We've already done a release on our instructor online led materials. You can contact the university tomorrow and book for instructor online so that we can set up, and we'll do week, however long, whatever the customized protocol is for deliveries of everything from awareness to the role-based specific training, everything that you saw me go through from an online instructor-led basis. The AWP University LMS is under development right now. It's nearly ready, but I don't want to send it out until it's near perfect. And we're anticipating that it will be released definitely before Christmas. and in the next month and a half or so. I don't have a specific date because I don't want to nail us down to something other than you'll get a really good Christmas present of the
Sorry,
AWP.
Robin,
Go ahead.
Sorry, Robin, you just cut out when you were saying when you thought it would be available. Could you say that again?
That figures. So did I cover the different levels? Did you hear me say that there's stuff that's available now, what we've released already?
Yeah, actually, it didn't cut out on my side, Robin. So it might be depending on the individual connection.
All right.
I apologize then.
So to summarize for those that may have cut out, there's 3 basics and specific releases that we're working on. The first release was instructor-led online training materials. We are done developing those. We've got multiple contracts in play right now. We're training all over the world on it. We have clients from Korea to Texas when it comes to the instructor-led online training materials for awareness and role-based. And then, of course, the other 2 bases. The first is LMS for introductory and practitioner based. So the first release is going to be Workface Planner, Executive, and AWP Coordinator. Those tracks will be released very, very quickly. And then the anticipation of the rest of the tracks that you've seen, the learning paths, is, like I said, it'll be a big Christmas present. Those will all be fully active before Christmas. So just to recap, I know most of you heard it twice, but there we go.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, the like Lloyd said, sometimes the virtual format gives you a little bit of a headache, but no, it's coming across nice and clear now. Thank you very much. There was actually a comment from Stephen Cabano suggesting not eliminating instructor-led training, just converting to virtual instructor-led training. I guess he's saying that he likes the virtual instructor-led training concept and format. So it sounds like that's something that is available now.
It is still available, and that is, we're very big on that. We do both a custom and a la carte basis for instructor-led training online, customizing it to an organization. If you're an LMS user and you use the self-directed LMS, we also have another tier, as I mentioned before, the productivity and question and answer sessions that we run weekly. It gives you interaction with the clients or with the students and the instructors. So if you're a student, you can actually join those sessions and interact as well. That's a lot lower level than instructor-led, but I don't want to ever go 100% to an LMS, because the day we go 100% LMS is the day that questions are going unanswered. So I believe a hybrid is always going to be required, but I think there's a lot of stuff, a lot of fluff that instructors do that we can cover online before we get the expensive hours of instructors involved, right? It's about keeping costs down too.
So Robin, I got a question sent to me by Jeff Ryan. Do you have a course on organizational change management? We do, actually, and that particular course is taught by a very famous lean practitioner by the name of Fernando España. He is a change management expert. In that, what I've done is I've surrounded myself in the university with people who are very specifically talented in certain areas around change management. Fernando España is one of those. He's a lean practitioner black belt who is also an expert in AWP and understands how the two work together. And he has written multiple programs around change management. Great. So, Steve, we've got about 5 minutes left. Do you want to continue going through any unanswered questions?
Sure. So you touched on this, I believe, already, Robin, but Bruce is asking, I think, for a little more clarification around how the AWP University training materials will connect with or tie into CII's publications. The specific question here, hi, could you explain about the intellectual property of the AWP materials in relation to what AWP University offers and what some other firms offer? Thanks.
Okay. What I can tell you about the AWP University materials as far as tying it to AWP methodologies within CII, and the content and what it means for certification and others is that I'm working very close with the certification group within CII to make sure that we stay on top of it within the university, that our courses all make sense. Our courses are not static. That's something that I probably should have mentioned before. We do regular updates to the courses based on what the industry is saying, what the industry requires. And then we produce reports on the LMS to show you what has changed recently so that you can see. When you purchase a learning path within the university and you go in there, you get to view future changes as well. It's not like, all right, you passed it, you're done, get out of my face. It's different than that. It's if you pass this course, you're going to be able to continue to see what the updates to that particular learning track are. So why I harp on that is that as things evolve within CII for certification and CII for future resource, CII is not finished research around AWP. It's a golden child for CII. It's become their fastest to best practice methodology. There's continual research around it. We're going to continue to evolve that. But to answer the main question to start with, the university is very intimately tied into CII and how those organizations are done. And the foundation of the university is kind of built on a lot of those relationships. Myself, if you look back, I've sat on every one of those teams, chaired a few of them, the research teams, 272A, 272B, 319. I was very active in those with some of the people I see on the course here. Sean Pellegrino gave us a question earlier. Sean was the chair of that first 272. Sean and I go way back. So the university is kind of based on a lot of those learnings all through. And that IP that's been developed there is prolific within the university, and it doesn't step on the toes of the AWP body of knowledge, but what it does is it accentuates it and makes sure that you understand the concepts that are pushed forward within the BOK.
All right. Well, I think there's a comment here from Shiv just saying thanks to Robin for an excellent presentation and for the productive insights about AWP University and AWP certification. That I would echo. Thank you very much, Robin and Lloyd. There are a couple of kind of bigger AWP general related questions here that I don't think we have time to dive into, but what I'll do is I'll provide Robin with the Q&A that's left over at the end of this session, and he can reach out to you directly to chat with you if that's okay, to those who submitted those questions. Lloyd, I'll pass it back over to you to close us out.
Thanks very much, Steve. And I just want to thank Robin for a great presentation. I think he gave us a really good update on the state of CII's development of education, and also good insight into the AWP University. I want to thank everybody who attended today. And please, if you have any questions, if you want to reach out to either Robin or to the CBA, Robin, the CBA, or the Community of Practice, please send us a message and we'll connect you to the right party. Okay. Thanks again, everyone. And thanks again, Robin. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to come listen. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.